Here to go over UFC 305, Jenkins Plessis taking on Israel Adesanya. Um, as far as the results of the betting of the last card, man, it wasn't. As far as my posted bets, anyway, it wasn't a good card for me. My big play on the card, which was a play on Nurmagomedov at minus 220, that hit. But I had a half unit play on Godinez, and then I had a 2-fight parlay that was a half unit play that was Kudalice and Dudakova. Um, yeah, I had a small underdog parlay too that didn't hit. But yeah, I always end up kicking myself in the ass over the. I tell myself like there's certain women's fights that I'll bet on, and I don't mean this to sound like offensive in any type of way, but like I should put my money on the women that are out there finishing fights. Like Karine Silva or Natalia Silva is very dominant. The ones that are out there finishing fights, because a lot of the times when women's fights come down to the judges, if they're not out there like hurting each other or cutting each other up or whatever, it could go either way. Um, I've never been high on Mackenzie Dern, after the way that she's looked. She got beat up by Jessica Andrade, almost got finished by Amanda Lemos. I figured Godinez would be able to dominate that fight fairly easily, and she did. I think she outstruck Dern, but she has no power on her shot, so I mean it wasn't hurting Dern, and I don't know. I guess I I still don't think highly of Dern, and I think even way less of Godinez now for losing to Dern. So yeah, I shouldn't be betting on fights like that. I should be betting on women's MMA. The women that finish fights. Dudakova, same thing. I mean, I thought that decision could have gone her way. I thought she won the first round and lost the second round. The third round was very close. But you can't leave it in the judge's hands. So kind of what I was worried about happened though, because Sam Hughes, if you get tired, she can take over. But yeah, so. But yeah, Kudalice scared me a little bit in that first round. It wasn't looking very good, but came back and showed that he is a well-rounded veteran. So I was happy with that. And I should have just had a play on him, like a single play on him. I had wanted to do that originally, with the opponent change and whatnot, but I let it go, whatever. So, yeah, but I mean, I was able to save myself from being at a loss, with the live betting. Like normally if I'm down or if I'm breaking even on a card, I'll end up pulling out $400-$500 extra on live betting. But that doesn't matter. I need to get my shit together. I'm giving out these bets, trying to help you guys win money, trying to give out free stuff and help people. And my posted bets, would have equaled, to be in the negative, this time. So or last time, whatever. So need to get my shit together, but. Either way, man, please like and subscribe, guys. It'll help me out a lot. If you're new to the channel, what I do is as I go through and give out my picks for each of the fights, at the end of the video, I give out my bets. I'm also available on Spotify, YouTube, iTunes, all your major streaming platforms. And if you're not interested in watching my videos, you just want to see my picks and my bets, you can go to my social medias. Highkick_fight picks is Instagram and TikTok. And there's a Facebook group, High Kick Fight Picks on Facebook. Pretty easy to find. Not a lot of members yet, but I encourage everybody to post anything they want MMA related in that group, and post your bets, because I want to bounce ideas off each other and help everybody win money, man. That's the only reason I do this. There are people that'll be like, "Oh, well, how do we really know that you're betting that much, or that you're doing?" Like, I don't care if you believe me, man. Like, there's nothing in doing these videos for me other than helping people. I haven't made a penny off doing these videos in 2 years. I don't have enough subscribers, and there's not a lot of money to be made in this field of content. Because it's not like your video is going to get circulated around for years to come and people are going to keep watching it. It's like a 2-week period where your videos get watched by a couple thousand people that bet on fights, and that's it. So there's not a lot of money in it, and it's going to be hard to make any money on YouTube doing this. So I just do this because I enjoy helping people out. Um, I've got a sponsor, Bovada.lv. That's who I work with. I've yet to make any money off that either because they don't pay you just to advertise for them. I guess unless you have like 1 million subscribers or something, I'm sure they would. But with my less than 1,000 subscribers, I only get paid if people use my link and sign up. So I'll post my link in the comments. Bovada.lv is a good book, man. It's the main book I use. I use it, and I also use BetOnline.ag, and yeah, it's one of the best books. You got early cash outs on your parlays, easy payouts, all that stuff. They usually have, a lot of the times, like on the day of the fights, they'll have like a total of like 3 fight cards up a lot of the time, which is a good time to put in big parlays across 3 cards. For whatever reason, they took a long time the past week or so to get the lines up. They don't usually do that. I don't know why. I don't know what's going on. They did the same thing with this Abu Dhabi card and this last card. So they already have most of the lines up for this card, UFC 305. But either way, man. So I haven't had a lot of trouble getting excited about this card, man. This is to me there's a few good fights on this card, but when I was looking into it, I was like, man, I don't find myself really excited or hyped for this card. And even the main event, like this fight was supposed to happen like a few years ago or something. I mean it's been pushed back, and I don't really care anymore. I mean it's a good fight. Don't get me wrong. And I think the co-main event is a really good fight. That's a fight that I was calling for. When they gave Steve Erceg the title shot, I was saying, man, he should have at least had to fight Moreno or Kakira France before getting a title shot. So I've been calling for that fight, and other than that, man, I feel like there's going to be some pretty one-sided fights on this card, and there's a lot of fights that I could care less about. Um, and yeah, so I mean, there's a couple spots that I'm looking to make some money, but overall, not really the most exciting card in my opinion. Now, tell me what you guys think. I'm always interested in hear what you guys think. I don't think there's anything else, man. So first up, we got Casey O'Neill taking on Luana Santos, and Casey O'Neill is 26 years old. She's 5'6" with a 69-inch reach. She is 9-2 and 4-2 in the UFC. And she's a plus 143 underdog. 3 wins by knockout, 2 wins by submission. Never been knocked out, but was submitted once in her last fight. And yeah, so her original win streak in the UFC, while it looked very impressive, was not over the best competition. And that kind of showed in her last 2 fights when she started getting some tougher fights towards the top of the division. Against Jennifer Maia and Ariana Lipsky. So she's definitely fought the tougher competition out of these two. I'll give her that. She does have good kickboxing. She hits hard. She's had a few finishes in the UFC. She will have a 2-inch reach advantage. She was kind of outclassed everywhere in her last fight. But she is fighting someone here who's kind of in the same position she was. When she fought Maia. Santos has 3 impressive wins, but over not the best of competition. So this will be a true test for Santos, and a little bit of a step down in competition for Casey O'Neill. Compared to her last 2 opponents, at least in the rankings. Consider the rankings. Where was I at? If Casey can keep this fight on the feet, she has a chance at winning this. She throws great calf kicks. She was looking a little slow in her last fight, man, and she was getting hurt with almost every shot that Lipsky landed. So that worries me quite a bit, and I think Casey may have the more technical striking out of these two. She doesn't load up as much on her shots, as Santos does. So she's a little bit more sharper to the point. But, Casey does come from more of a striking background as well than Santos. Casey's wrestling didn't look very good in her last 2 fights, and I didn't expect it to because that's not her primary skill set, and yeah, I mean, it'll wind up bad for her if she tries to shoot takedowns in this fight as well. So Casey shows 55% striking accuracy with 57% striking defense, 38% takedown accuracy with 67% takedown defense. That's a key number there on the takedown defense. She averages 1.77 takedowns per fight, and she lands on average 8.41 strikes per minute, which is a pretty good number, while absorbing 6.30. So she does get hit a lot as well, but she does land a lot of shots. And she's taking on Luana Santos. She is 24 years old. She's 5'6" with a 67-inch reach. She is 8-1 and 3-0 in the UFC. Minus 163 favorite now. And This is a quick turnaround for her, man. She just fought less than 2 weeks ago. One win by knockout, four wins by submission. She's never been finished. Comes from a grappling background, judo and jiu-jitsu background. She was doing judo at a very young age. And she also hits really hard, man. And I give her the power advantage and the speed advantage with the hands in this fight. She does tend to load up and swing really hard and kind of telegraph some of her shots, but at least she's pretty fast with her shots. She showed a really well-rounded game so far in the UFC, man. She's got one win by knockout, a win by submission. Was both wins by? Yeah, one win by submission and then one by decision. So we know she can go the 3 rounds. Um, and Agapova, her last fight was a very good striker, and Santos dropped her in the first round and then submitted her. So it was an easy fight for her. Barely took any damage. She has great head and arm throws, good hip tosses. She has a big advantage on the ground, with her takedowns, and she has smooth transitions on the ground to the back. And I expect her to take this fight to the ground pretty quickly and easily. And my favorite part of watching Luana Santos fight is that little dance she does at the end of the fight. After she won. She's kind of everything that the UFC is looking for. One of those. In my opinion, she's a good-looking woman. She has a lot of skills. She's very well-rounded. And she's staying active, man. She's taking fights on short notice. She's stepping in there. That's everything the UFC wants in a fighter. So I expect her to go kind of far. It's going to be. I imagine she'll get a few more fights before she gets a super, tough competitor. But she's looking really good so far, man. And this is going to be her fourth fight in 1 year of being in the UFC. So she could still get, well, I guess it has been almost a full year since she's been in the UFC. So 4 fights in 1 year is pretty good, though. I do think she has a lot of advantages in this fight. This is going to be, the toughest test in her career so far. She shows 55% striking accuracy with 65% striking defense. That's an above-average number on the striking defense. 60% takedown accuracy. It's a great number, and she has 67% takedown defense. Somehow, I'm not sure on that one if that's accurate or not. She averages just over 2 takedowns per fight, over 2 submission attempts per fight, and she lands on average 5.33 strikes per minute while absorbing 3.21. I'm taking Santos to win this fight by a second-round submission. I think she's definitely going to have the edge on the ground, and she might even have the edge on the feet, man. She might drop Casey and then submit her. So, but I do think she's got this one in the bag. Next up, we got Jack Jenkins taking on Herbert Burns. And Jack Jenkins is 31 years old. He's 5'7" with a 68-inch reach. He is 12-3 and 2-1 in the UFC, and he's a minus 475 favorite. The only thing that scares me about Jack on this one is he's coming back off that injury from the Chepe fight. It's been almost a year. He's not the biggest featherweight. He's going to be at a big size disadvantage in this fight. And part of me wonders if he could make 135, man. But he's had a lot of success in this weight class, so you can't really say much. But he's a sniper. He's got really, really good Muay Thai kickboxing, nasty calf kicks. That's one of his best weapons is calf kick, man. Great kicks all around, honestly. But he has won a few fights via calf kick. Supposedly he broke some guys' legs with those. So he's super fast, great technique on all his attacks, great knees in the clinch, throws great combinations, good takedown defense, uses his jab very well. Mixes up his attacks to all 3 levels. He's not just a headhunter. He doesn't just focus on the calf kicks. He goes the body lot as well. Fights well from both stances. He will have the cardio advantage in this fight for sure. He can take a punch. And as long as he weathers the early storm and keeps the fight on the feet, he should do pretty well here. He has 5 wins by knockout, 3 wins by submission. He has been submitted twice, so obviously that was maybe the weaker part of his game early, but that was really early in his career. So he was on a 9-fight win streak up until the injury in the Chepe fight, and that wasn't a legit loss, man. He his elbow or whatever it was, I don't remember now, but couldn't continue with that. So he's definitely the better, more technical striker out of these two, and Jenkins shows 61% striking accuracy with 60% striking defense. 69% takedown accuracy with 75% takedown defense. He averages 2.56 takedowns per fight, and he lands on average 4.43 strikes per minute while absorbing 3.7. He's taking on Herbert Burns. I don't know why this guy's still in the UFC, especially after the Bill Algeo fight. He's 36 years old, I guess because he's Gilbert's brother. Maybe they're keeping him around, but 36 years old, 5'9", with a 74-inch reach. He's 11-5 and 2-3 in the UFC, and he's a plus 375 underdog. 1 win by knockout, 8 wins by submission. He's been knocked out in his last 3 fights, never been submitted. He does have a lot of skills, man. He's a dangerous grappler. He throws really hard shots early. He's going to be 2 inches taller and have a 6-inch reach advantage. He can be fast and explosive, early in the fight. But he lost to Bill Algeo, man, and we all know, how much Bill Algeo sucks now after his last few fights. Not only did Herbert Burns lose, he got so exhausted that he laid there on his back and let Bill finish him, and he was just so tired he couldn't continue. And I don't remember what round that was in. I know he basically just literally quit, in the fight. I think it was in the second round. And it's the wrestling / grappling that really gasses him out. When he does push that pace, it tires him out really quickly. He did show some decent striking in his last fight, but in the end he got knocked out again. He's kind of a more unorthodox striker, lots of big movements and jumping knees and stuff like that. His best bet is to get the fight to the ground and find a submission. Problem is, if he does that and doesn't get the sub, he'll be gassed out in the next round. So he shows 40% striking accuracy with 42% striking defense, 43% takedown accuracy with 67% takedown defense, averages 3 takedowns per fight and 2.5 submissions, 2.5 submissions per fight. And he lands on average 1.74 strikes per minute, while that's a terrible number, while absorbing 4.60. I think Jenkins will come out and focus on the calf kicks and go to the body a lot as well and really chip away at the gas tank of Herbert Burns. I'm taking Jenkins to win this fight by TKO round 2. Next up, we got Keon Song taking on Ricky Glenn. Song is 34 years old. He's 6 foot tall with a 71.5-inch reach. He is 21-8 and 5-4 in the UFC. He's a minus 225 favorite. There's a little bit of confusion here on this fight with me that could impact my confidence level in this fight. I'm pretty sure that Tapology is wrong. They have this fight listed at 155, and if that's the case, I have a lot of trouble believing that Keon Song can make 155 in a healthy way. So that scares me, but UFC.com has this fight at welterweight, which means Glenn is going up to 170. So I'm going to go off the UFC.com, what they say for now. And that's a little bit more believable for me in the first place. Song's going to be the much bigger, thicker, stronger guy here. He's going to have a 1-inch reach advantage. While Glenn has had a few flash knockouts, I do think that Song's definitely going to have the power advantage. Song has 9 wins by knockout, 9 wins by submission. He's been fighting a lot of really tough competition. So I don't hold his last few losses against him. He has great kickboxing, and Glenn has been knocked out in his last 2 fights. So Song uses his calf kicks very well. He can be a slow starter sometimes, but all around I think he has the better striking out of these two. And he's the only guy so far to almost finish Ian Gary. He dropped Ian Gary in that fight and hurt him bad. I think Song's takedown defense is good enough that he should be able to keep this fight on the feet here. He shows 46% striking accuracy with 51% striking defense. 50% takedown accuracy with 61% takedown defense. He averages almost 1 knockdown per fight, and he lands on average 4.36 strikes per minute while absorbing 6.38. So he does get hit quite a bit. He's taking on Ricky Glenn. He is 35 years old. He's 6 foot tall with a 70.5-inch reach. He is 22-8-2 and 4-5-1 in the UFC, and he's a plus 190 underdog. 11 wins by knockout, 5 wins by submission. He had the advantages down at lightweight of usually being the taller, longer guy, but he's not going to have that advantage at welterweight at all. I believe Glenn may have used a fight at 145 at one point, then at 155, and now at 170, which honestly isn't really a good look, to just be going up weight class after weight class, and being pretty late into his career. He honestly, he did have a pretty good, fight with Grant Dawson, taking him to a draw, but basically, Dawson dominated Glenn for the first 2 rounds and then gassed out, and Glenn got a 10-8 in the 3rd round. So, take that for what it is. But he throws nice straight shots, good jab. He was looking a little stiff and slower than normal in his last 2 fights. And my thoughts here are, is if he couldn't take the punches down at 155, what makes him think it's going to be any easier at 170? I don't really see any advantages for him here in this fight, so I don't have much to say on his behalf. He shows 43% striking accuracy with 52% striking defense. 13% takedown accuracy, which kind of kills his one path to victory here, and 68% takedown defense. He lands on average 3.94 strikes per minute while absorbing 4.10. I'm taking Song to win this fight by knockout round 2, just because he's sometimes a slow starter. Next up, we got Stuart Nicoll taking on Jesus Aguilar. And Stuart Nicoll is 29 years old. He's 5'5", we don't have his reach. Couldn't find it on watching the tape either. He's 8-0, and this is going to be his UFC debut. He's a minus 155 favorite. And looking at this fight on paper before watching the tape on this guy, I found it kind of crazy that that he's a favorite because it appears he has not fought any tough competition at all yet. And the last guy he beat was 5-0, but his 5 wins were all over guys who were 0-0 in their career that had no experience. So I don't find any of the wins impressive, but at least he's winning by finish. Yeah, so I don't know. I guess at least Stewart won dominantly. He's got 4 wins by knockout, 3 wins by submission, only gone to a decision once. But like I said, that was my initial thoughts before watching his fights. I didn't really know anything about him at all. And watching his fights, he showed all the skills, the wrestling, the striking, the jiu-jitsu, but we won't really know how good he actually is until we see him fight somebody that's been around the top or fighting a high level of competition. So if he were coming off the contender series, I'd feel a little bit more confident about picking him. He'll be an inch taller. He'll probably have a reach advantage. Most of his wins are first round finishes. I think he has a jiu-jitsu background, good ground and pound, great speed on his takedowns. And I know he's fighting at home here. The UFC wants him to win this fight. The only thing you won't see in watching the tape is him having to deal with any adversity. He hasn't had anybody that had anything for him yet. So who knows how he's going to react if the fight's not going his way. His skills are pretty solid, though, on the regional scene. Looks like he's well-rounded. I don't know that I'm willing to take this guy against somebody who's already won 2 fights in the UFC and, somebody that's already fought, Tatsuro, Taira as well. So, Jesus Aguilar is 28 years old. He's 5'4" with a 62-inch reach. He is 10-2 and 2-1 in the UFC. Plus 184 underdog. And like I said, the levels of competition aren't even close. Aguilar's fought the way tougher competition. Already has 2 wins in the UFC. Beat 11-1 guy on the Contender Series. He's been through the ringer, man, in his career, and he's got 1 win by knockout, 6 wins by submission, has a nasty guillotine choke, lots of wins with the guillotine choke. He lost his first pro fight, and other than that, he only lost to Tatsuro Taira, however you say his name. Who's and he's going to be a champion one day, possibly. So there's no shame in that. Aguilar has a win over Edgar Chairez, who's on a great run right now in the UFC. He hits really hard. He's a really short, stocky, strong guy. He's pretty good at getting back to his feet when he's taken down. Good cardio. He does get taken down a lot, though. I won't say that he doesn't, but like I said, he either gets up or he scrambles and ends up on top most of the time. And he's got dangerous ground and pound. He's a smaller guy, and he's good at kind of shelling up under people when they're on top of him and digging the underhook. Kind of shelling under the underhook and then and popping back out the other side, finding the openings, And in theory, I guess I see why everyone's going with Nicoll with his grappling background. He looks pretty solid, but Aguilar was taken down a lot in his last fight, and he still won the fight. So he has good scrambles, and honestly, I think I want to go with Aguilar here. He's the more proven fighter to me. He does damage when he lands, and you can't say he isn't a decent grappler because most of his wins have been on the ground. So. His last win was a split decision, but I don't agree with that. I thought he clearly won that fight. He won the first 2 rounds pretty solidly. He dropped Mendoza in the second round and mounted him. Did more damage in the first, and he shows 51% striking accuracy with 59% striking defense, 33% takedown accuracy with 40% takedown defense. Averages half a knockdown per fight, 1.43 submissions per fight, 2 takedowns per fight, and he lands on average 1.49 strikes per minute while absorbing 1.11. And that's because most of his fights end up playing out on the ground. Guys are always trying to take him down. So I'm gonna take the dog here. I'll go with Aguilar. He's a tough veteran. Not going to be investing any money in this at all. Probably. I'll stay away from this one. I know that Aguilar's being brought there to lose. So, but I'll take him to win by guillotine choke, man. Round 2. Maybe Stewart shoots a takedown on him and he gets him in that choke. Next up, we got Josh culibao taking on Ricardo Ramos. And, culibao is 30 years old. He's 5'10" with a 73-inch reach, 11-3, 11-3-1, and 3-3-1 in the UFC. He's a minus 170 favorite, 5 wins by knockout, 1 win by submission. Never been submitted, but was knocked out once. And I used to think pretty highly of Josh, but my opinion has kind of changed. Him losing to a debuting fighter the last time out was kind of ridiculous. And and Lerone Murphy before that, which Murphy's pretty good and undefeated, so I can understand that loss. But Culibao was getting his ass kicked before Melsik Bagdasaryan by Melsik Bagdasaryan before he was able to get that submission. Um, and Josh does have great hands. He's very fast. I was kind of blown away by his hands in the Sungwoo Choi fight. But unfortunately, we haven't got to see like him dropping guys or hurting guys or anything really since then. He does tend to land some good shots and good volume, but not a lot of power on his shots, man. Which is how his last fight didn't go his way. Um, he'll be 1 inch taller. He's gonna have a 1 inch reach advantage. Ramos has been submitted in his last two fights, but Culibao isn't really known for his ground game, so I don't think that's going to be a risk here. Um, it's crazy that Josh Culibao is actually older than Ramos. Ramos has been around for a long time. Josh throws great combinations, usually two or three at a time. His last fight was competitive, man, but like I said, a veteran shouldn't be having competitive fights with a guy making his debut. So, but he does tend to land a lot of volume, like I said, and he just usually his opponents land the heavier, more damaging shots. And this is another fight where I could see that happening, man, because Ramos is explosive and he hits hard. So you just never really know what's going to happen with these guys. But he's taking on Ricardo Ramos. He is 29 years old. He's 5'9" with a 72-inch reach. He is 16-6 and 7-5 in the UFC, and he's a plus 145 underdog. 4 wins by knockout, 7 wins by submission. Most of his losses have been by finish. His losses have been to pretty tough competition. And you can't tell me that Julian Erosa isn't tough competition anymore, because Erosa just beat everybody's boy Christian Rodriguez. So can't tell me Erosa's not good competition anymore. Yeah, Ramos just needs to be more careful when he's shooting takedowns. His striking is kind of more of an unorthodox style, lots of power shots and spinning and jumping attacks. He almost knocked out Erosa before he got submitted. He's only 29 years old. He's been in the UFC since 2016, so in a way he's kind of grown up in the UFC. And I'm curious where his skill set is actually at, outside of sticking his head in a guillotine anyway. His striking looked great in his last fight while it lasted. He does have good jiu-jitsu, nasty ground and pound. Just struggles with the submission awareness. It seems I don't see him getting caught in a guillotine for a third time, but you never know. He does tend to get the takedowns, which could play a big factor in this fight. He just has to figure out, that at this point that to not shoot takedowns with his head off to the side like that. That's what he's been doing. Looking at this fight, yeah, I don't really like having to pick either one of them. Honestly, I kind of want to pick the dog because I picked both these guys in their last two fights and they both lost. So, but I'm pretty sure that I don't know, man. Kulibao's fighting at home here. They want him to win this fight, and I guess he's looked better than Ramos at least. So I'll pick Culibao to win by decision, but not super confident. You just never know. Ramos is only 29 years old. He's going to get better, so you never know what you're going to get. But yeah, both these guys will let me down in their last two fights. So next up, we got Junior Tafa taking on Walter Walker. Another fight that I don't know why we care about. Yeah, both these guys haven't looked good recently. Tafa's 27 years old. He's 6'3" with a 72-inch reach. He is 5-2 and 1-2 in the UFC. It's a minus 110 pick'em on either side. So he showed to have all kinds of holes in his game since being in the UFC. He has a ton of kickboxing experience and had a lot of success in kickboxing, which is why I was really surprised in his last fight when he couldn't handle or know what to do about the leg kicks. We saw a world-class kickboxer get beat up by a guy who's getting towards the end of his career, Not what I expected at all. So, and also for a guy who's 6'3", he does have a very short reach, and no doubt he'll be the faster, better striker in this fight, or he should be anyway. He's heavily favored on Tapology, which I find surprising. It's not like he looked any better than his opponent last time out, let's be honest. I would rather see Tafa win this fight, but Walker usually does take all his opponents down. So most likely he will get Tafa down as well. Tafa's best chance is to hope that Walker gasses out again like he did in his last fight, and maybe Tafa can put him away after he slows down. But will Tafa's submission defense hold up long enough for Walker to gas out? I don't know. All of Tafa's wins have been by knockout, and I was so hyped on him, man, when I heard he was coming to the UFC. I was very excited about it because I was familiar with him from his kickboxing, but I don't know. I guess we'll see how much better his takedown defense has gotten in this short amount of time. It's been 5 months, but yeah, it's hard to it's hard to want to pick either one of these guys, but he's taking on Walter Walker. He is 26 years old. He is 6'6" with an 81, a little over 81-inch reach. 11-1 and 0-1 in the UFC. Minus 110. He's 6 wins by knockout, 1 win by submission. He's never been finished. His record looked real great coming in the UFC, but it must be a padded record because he lost to Bresky, and Bresky went 1-4 in the UFC. So not a good look losing to him. And that was just a few months ago. So is his cardio going to be better? I doubt it. He's going to be at a big speed and skill disadvantage on the feet. Maybe he can pace himself better this time. He's a huge, strong dude. His wrestling is pretty good until he gets tired. I really have no idea who to pick here, man. And I guess maybe I'll have like an underdog somewhat parlay. I don't know. We'll see where the money goes. Maybe I'll put one of these guys in like an underdog parlay or something. But yeah, man, I don't know. My brain says to take Walker because his wrestling. My heart says to take Tafa in hopes that he'll knock this dude out because, I mean, he gasses out and he's a pretty boring fighter. Yeah, I don't really know who to pick here. Tell me what you guys think on this fight, man. I mean, I guess for now I'll go with I don't know. Tafa's, I mean, his takedown defense is really bad. I guess I'll go with Walker for now, but I'll probably have Tafa in some sort of a, parlay, underdog parlay, one that I don't expect to hit, but I'll have him on there for the value. But I hope he wins. I hope Tafa wins. I like him better. He's more exciting. Next up, we got Tom Nolan taking on Alex Reyes. And Tom Nolan is 24 years old. He's 6'3" with a 73-inch reach. He is 7-1 and 1-1 in the UFC, and he's a minus 1,000 favorite. That line's out of hand, man. We already saw Tom get knocked out once, and he got caught again in his last fight and dropped, but he came back and got the win. So it's not like he's unstoppable, man. I mean, a minus 1,000 is a pretty stiff price. He has 5 wins by knockout, no wins or losses by submission. He's a huge lightweight. He's way taller, but he doesn't have a reach advantage. These guys have the same reach. So he's got big power, good kickboxing, but his striking defense isn't the best. I know this is a bad comparison because Nolan's a much better striker than Cody Gibson, but they are alike to me in that they are both tall for the weight class and they both stay in their opponent's faces instead of using their height and reach and managing the distance, which leads to them getting hit a lot. Tom is a young guy, man. He has a lot of room for improvement. He's going to get way better. I'm really curious about how he'll do against a good wrestler. I don't think he's going to have to worry about that in this fight, but it will happen at some point. He's a fast starter, nasty calf kicks, great kicks all around, really, good at digging the toes into the body on his front kicks, great knees and elbows in close, good spinning attacks and jumping attacks. The thing I worry about sometimes with young guys coming in with not a lot of experience, and I'm not saying this is the case, for Tom, but it's just a worry that I have about guys that sometimes they can get to the UFC a little too quickly and they end up getting, knocked out a bunch of times by more experienced guys, and it affects their career in a bad way. And the only reason I bring that up is because Tom got knocked out, in his first fight. So, not saying that's the case, not saying that's going to happen. It's always just a possibility. But this is a good matchup for him, I think. And I mean, even if the price is way out of hand, this is a good fight for him. He's taking on Alex Reyes. He is 37 years old. He's 5'11" with a 73-inch reach. He is 13-4 and 0-2 in the UFC, and he's a plus 700 underdog. Reyes was having a hell of a career before the UFC. All of his wins have been by finish, 9 knockouts, 4 submissions, never been submitted. He got into the UFC in 2017, got knocked out by Mike Perry, then just disappeared. Up until the end of last year, where he came back and got knocked out by Charlie Campbell. So that's a 4 or 5 year hiatus he took when he was at the top of his game. So he's now almost 38. Not a good look. He's had a ton of first round finishes. Used a lot of feints. He's Dominic Reyes' brother. He didn't look good last time out, but it was his first fight back in 5 years, and Charlie Campbell is a beast. But there's not a lot of money to be made on this fight unless you're taking Reyes. Y'all know I like to have fun and make underdog parlays and put like $20 on them just in case there's a few upsets. I think Reyes will need to use wrestling to win this fight, most likely, or at least wear Tom out before striking with him. I don't have really anything to say in Reyes' favor here after his last few fights. And I guess if you're going to bet Tom, try and pick a round or take him to win by knockout, maybe by knockout round one. I'm sure that price will be pretty high as well, but I'm thinking Tom by first round knockout. Like I said, but he is a little bit worrisome because he has been clipped a few times in the UFC. Next up, we got Matheus Gamrot taking on Dan Hooker. Yeah, I'm always excited to see Dan Hooker fight, but then they match him up with somebody who just like makes fights super boring, you know. And like Gamrot doesn't do a lot of damage to anybody. Gamrot is 33 years old. He's 5'10" with a 70.5-inch reach. He's 24-2 and 7-2 in the UFC, and he's a minus 225 favorite. 8 wins by knockout, 5 wins by submission. And the thing I don't like about him is that it's just like here lately he's just been barely sliding by with the wins, you know. He arguably lost the Jalen Turner fight. He was losing the Fiziev fight up until Fiziev injured his knee, and then Gamrot was running around celebrating like he did something when, you know, Fiziev blew his knee out. Then in his last fight, once again, he did barely any damage. He lost the first round, almost got finished in the first round, got dropped. I just think at some point this is all going to catch up to him, man, and if he almost got finished by RDA, you know, what's a great striker like Dan Hooker going to do to him on the feet, you know? He is a great wrestler, great single legs, great trip takedowns, strong with his body lock, you know, good ankle picks. His striking holds up against a lot of people, but I don't think it's going to hold up against Hooker. He's going to be constantly looking for takedowns, trying to make it a boring fight, and he's not going to do any damage. I could see Hooker having success with elbows while Gamrot is trying to take him down, but I don't know, man. He shows 51% striking accuracy with 60% striking defense, 36% takedown accuracy with 91% takedown defense. Averages 5.28 takedowns per fight, and he lands on average 3.9 strikes per minute while absorbing 3.7. He's almost, he's going to get takedowns in this fight. It's just a matter of maybe if Hooker can make him work and make him really, really work hard for those takedowns, maybe he can tire him out a little bit and stuff him in the third round or second round, and maybe land some strikes on the feet. He's taking on Dan Hooker. He is 34 years old. He's 6 foot tall with a 75.5-inch reach. He is 23-12 and 13-8 in the UFC. He's a plus 190 underdog. 11 wins by knockout, 7 wins by submission. And Dan's only lost to the best guys in the division. Great kickboxing. He's 2 inches taller. He's going to have a 5-inch reach advantage. I think if he goes out there and tears up Gamrot's legs and uses his range and beats up Gamrot from the outside, he could hurt him. Dan's got great kicks to all levels. Dan has the better, more technical striking and the power advantage on the feet. Dan would have finished Jalen Turner if there were 30 more seconds in that round, in the second round of their fight. He had the choke locked in and everything after he hurt him on the feet. Dan is super tough, man. I want him to win this fight so bad. Everyone's going with Gamrot, and in theory, this is a bad matchup for Hooker. Hooker has good counter striking, the better kicks, the power advantage, but the way that Gamrot fights is that it takes away all the advantages that I think Hooker has. I do think Hooker has a better chance at winning this fight than people think, but I don't know, man. This is a bad matchup for him, I guess, and I'd like to see him fight somebody exciting that likes to strike, He shows 49% striking accuracy with 51% striking defense, 34% takedown accuracy with 81% takedown defense, averages almost 1 takedown per fight, and he lands on average 5.8 strikes per minute while absorbing 4.76. The pick is going to be Gamrot to win by decision. Like I said, I'll probably have an underdog parlay, and I'll put Hooker in it. In fact, I'm probably going to make a parlay that has like all the Australian fighters in it. In case they get a clean sweep somehow. I know that Erceg and Kara France are fighting, so I'll probably do like the underdog, take Kara France in that. But I don't know, man. I don't think I'll actually include Gamrot in anything, but I guess he's the pick. Yeah. Next up, we got Jingliang Li, the Leech, taking on Carlos Prates. And this is actually a good fight. This is one of the good fights on the card. Lee is 36 years old. He's 6 foot tall with a 72-inch reach. He is 19-8 and 11-6 in the UFC, and he's a plus 195 underdog. 10 wins by knockout, 4 wins by submission. He's never been knocked out, but has been submitted twice. He's not going to have to worry about a submission in this fight, and I'm sure that's why he took the fight. The Leech is a very good kickboxer himself, and he's had a relatively successful career in the UFC. He had some decent wins on his record: Diego Lima, Elizu Zaleski dos Santos, Ponzinibbio, and I think most people probably thought he should have won the fight against Daniel Rodriguez last time out. He's got big power. He fights mostly orthodox. Great counter striking, great calf kicks, good kicks to the body. Very fast, nice straight right hand. He does tend to drop his hands when he throws kicks, and that's something that he'll need to be real careful with in this fight. He doesn't rush anything. He stays real calm out there, picks his shots. But he hasn't fought in almost 2 years now, so we don't know how he's going to look coming back. And he's never won a fight in the UFC by submission, and he doesn't ever look for takedowns, which would be his best bet in this fight probably. Um, he shows 43% striking accuracy with 58% striking defense, 42% takedown accuracy with 60% takedown defense, averages almost one knockdown per fight, 1.25 takedowns per fight, and he lands on average 4.46 strikes per minute while absorbing 3.48. He's taking on Carlos Prates. He is 6'1" with a 78-inch reach, 19-6, 2-0 in the UFC. He's a minus 210 favorite. This guy's on a great run right now. He's on a 9-fight win streak, 8 knockouts in a row. Altogether, he has 14 wins by knockout and 3 wins by submission. So he comes from a kickboxing background, and it doesn't matter if you're landing on this guy, if you're edging out the fight, because at some point he will land and he will hurt you. He's very tall and long for the weight class. He's going to have a 6-inch reach advantage in this fight. Great striking, huge power, good at using his reach, great Muay Thai type style of striking. Fights mostly southpaw, but is good from both stances. Nasty kicks to the body, really good with his knees, especially the knees from the back leg. He kind of throws those out there like an uppercut, and it stays light on the front foot. Uses it like a jab, good counters. He's very patient. Doesn't take a lot of unnecessary risk. And that straight left hand, is nasty, right down the middle. That's what he caught Giles with. His takedown defense has held up pretty good so far. He's good at setting up his straight left hand with his knees and his teep kicks. And he hasn't had enough fights in the UFC for me to go over the numbers yet, but I think this fight's going to play out on the feet. And if that's the case, I got to edge Prates to win this fight. I think the shots to the body are going to play a big factor in this fight. I think he's going to probably hurt Lee to the body and then land a good shot. And this is going to be the Leech's first loss by TKO. Next up, we got Tai Tuivasa taking on Jairzinho Rozenstruik. And, I find myself just wasn't all that excited by this fight, but Tuivasa's 31 years old. He's 6'2" with a 75-inch reach. He is 14-7 and 8-7 in the UFC, and he's a plus 155 underdog. 13 wins by knockout, no wins by submission. So my thought on this fight is that Ty's last 3 fights were against guys who could take him down and beat him that way. Rozenstruik doesn't do that, so Ty has a chance here to get the knockout. And I think he's faster, and I think he has a great style to beat Rozenstruik in the striking. He's only 31 years old. He almost knocked out Tybura in the last fight before he got taken down. Tuivasa's speed and power is superior to Rozenstruik's, in my opinion. This fight will play out on the feet, and then this is the type of fight that Tuivasa can win. He shows 50% striking accuracy with 43% striking defense. Never shot a takedown in the UFC. I don't think he has anyway. 58% takedown defense. Averages 1.19 knockdowns per fight, and he lands on average 3.96 strikes per minute while absorbing 5.5. And the reason I don't have more to say about either of these guys is they're heavyweights. 2, they're not really. It's kind of hard to say they're well rounded because they don't wrestle, they don't have submissions, they don't do any of that. So they're just strikers. So yeah, I don't have as much to say about either of these guys. And he's taking on Jairzinho Rozenstruik. He is 36 years old. He's 6'2" with a 78-inch reach. 14-5 and 8-5 in the UFC. He's a minus 180 favorite. 13 wins by knockout, no wins by submission. Rozenstruik has good kickboxing as well. Doesn't put out the most volume. He hits hard. I could see this fight going either way, honestly. And I don't really see a lot of advantages in either direction. I think Tuivasa's speed and power is a little bit better than Rozenstruik, so I'm going to keep it short on this one. I'm going to take the dog. I'm going to take Tuivasa to win at home. I think the UFC is trying to get him back in the win column. I think maybe they think this is a good matchup for him as well. So I'll take him to win by knockout round one. Next up, we got Kai Kara France taking on Steve Erceg. And Kai is 31 years old. He's 5'4" with a 69-inch reach. He has 24-11 and 7-4 in the UFC, and he's a plus 200 underdog. 11 wins by knockout, 3 wins by submission. I really like Kai, man, and I thought it was ridiculous that Erceg got to skip over him straight to a title shot. Also, Kai got robbed by the judges in the Albazi fight. He won that fight, no doubt. He's shorter, but he has a half-inch reach advantage. He has great striking, very fast, good power in his punches. Trains with all the best guys in the world, man, at City Kickboxing. And he will have a speed advantage, I think. He has pretty damn good takedown defense. It'll be close in the striking. And it's hard to say who has the more technical striking here. I know Erceg throws the more straight, longer punches. Kai, being the shorter guy, kind of has to get on the inside with the bigger shots and the hooks. I want Kai to win this fight, guys. I really do. I found myself rooting for him, for the longest now, because I think a lot of it has to just do with him being a shorter guy. I'm not short like him, but I'm a short guy. I'm 5'7", 5'8"-ish, probably close to 5'8". So it's not like I'm 5'4", but it's always feels good to me to see 5'4" guys knocking dudes out in the cage, I guess, and this is one of the few good fights on this card, man. And Kai has a great check hook. He shows 40% striking accuracy with 65% striking defense. 33% takedown accuracy with 88% takedown defense. Averages just over half a knockdown per fight, and he lands on average 4.57 strikes per minute while absorbing 3.24. He's taking on Steve Erceg. He is 29 years old. He's 5'8" with a 68.5-inch reach. He is 12-2 and 3-1 in the UFC. He's a minus 235 favorite. 2 wins by knockout, 6 wins by submission. Never been finished. He had a really good competitive fight with the champ last time out. There were a lot of times in that fight where he was getting kind of dominated. Very technical boxing. His biggest advantage in this fight would be on the ground if he can get it there. Big height advantage. He looks more like a bantamweight, than a flyweight. Great kicks to the body. Uses his jab very well, and that'll be an important part of this fight for Erceg, using that jab, getting the jab going. Pantoja was putting the work on Erceg in the first round with the pressure and the grappling. Started the fight out very dominantly. And as much as I like Kai Kara France, I do think that Pantoja is a really bad matchup for him. So it is very impressive to me that Erceg went 5 rounds with Pantoja. Showed that he deserves to be here, that he is a good fighter. Erceg shows 50% striking accuracy with 52% striking defense. 26% takedown accuracy with 61% takedown defense. Averages 1.25 takedowns per fight, and he lands on average 4.52 strikes per minute while absorbing 4.20. The pick is going to be Erceg, unfortunately, to win by decision. But I'll definitely have Kai in some sort of an underdog parlay. I'll be rooting for him, but I don't know, man. Kai's pretty good, man. He has a shot at winning this. I don't think he deserves to be that big of an underdog, but we'll see, man. Next up, we got the main event. Dricus du Plessis taking on Israel Adesanya. And, Dricus du Plessis is 30 years old. He's 6'1" with a 76-inch reach. He's 21-2 and 7-0 in the UFC, and he's a plus 115 underdog. 9 wins by knockout, 10 wins by submission. Both his losses have been by finish. 1 knockout, 1 submission, I believe. It's possible. The Strickland fight was close, man. It's arguably that it could have gone either way. But it was a very close fight, and very entertaining fight, and he is kind of a more well-rounded fighter than Izzy. He has a lot of submission wins. He's a decent grappler with big power. He has a really awkward kind of striking style, throws great combinations. He's a big, strong guy. Great kicks to all levels. He does tend to throw the bigger, wider shots than all of his opponents. He loads up a lot on his shots, and Izzy will be able to see a lot of those coming, but, it's Dricus will have to kind of throw. I think he'll need to throw longer combinations than he's used to, because the first few are aren't gonna land. But maybe on the third and fourth, shot, he'll be able to hit Izzy. He was able to get Strickland down a few times, but was unable to do anything with it at all. He throws a lot of shots, but he misses a lot. Very wild. I don't think he's going to be able to get the takedowns in this fight, but it's possible. You never know. Which, if he can't, that puts him on the feet with a high-level kickboxer who knocked out Alex Pereira. So that's a scary thought. And he is very good with his blitzing combinations. He shows 50% striking accuracy with 55% striking defense, 52% takedown accuracy with 40% takedown defense. He averages 3/4 of a knockdown per fight, 3 takedowns per fight, and he lands on average 6.49 strikes per minute while absorbing 4.77. And after rewatching the Strickland fight, um, I had Strickland in rounds 1, 2, and 5. So I don't know what everybody else thought about it. I thought Dricus did a good job in round 3 and 4. I think at the end, Strickland kind of turned it back up and was landing some bigger shots. So I don't know, man. It was a close fight, though. And he's taking on Israel Adesanya. He's 35 years old. He's 6'4" with an 80-inch reach. He is 24-3 and 13-3 in the UFC. He's a minus 135 favorite. And you got to give it to him, man. I went from being like a really big Israel Adesanya fan to not being as big of an Israel Adesanya fan to back to cheering for him again, kind of. Um, he's a legend, man. He's one of the best to ever do it. And he's 16 wins by knockout, no wins by submission, never been submitted. He'll be taller, and he will have a 4-inch reach advantage, and he uses it very well. I think he has the better, more technical striking. While Dricus does throw a wider variety of stuff, I think Adesanya throws the longer, straighter, more accurate shots. And I think as long as his takedown defense hold up, he can win this fight, man. And he took some time off after the Strickland fight. He did seem to me like maybe he was kind of, burn out, at that point. I don't know if that makes sense. Maybe he was burnt out at that point. Maybe he wasn't training as hard as he used to be, or something. I don't know, man. It's just it kind of gave me that vibe, that's how he was feeling around that time in his career. And he did take some time off. I know it's been less than a year, but he is looking good and big in preparation for this fight. And I don't think that same kind of. I do think that same kind of thing that he did to Pereira in their last fight could work well in this fight. That kind of playing hurt up against the cage and letting Dricus try to unload and then countering could pay off really well because Dricus does leave a lot of openings when he's blitzing in and firing those combinations. He shows 48% striking accuracy with 56% striking defense, 14% takedown accuracy with 78% takedown defense, and he lands on average 3.93 strikes per minute while absorbing 3.11. Man, I was really hoping Adesanya would be an underdog. I am going to pick Adesanya to win the fight, but yeah, I definitely have to have Dricus in an underdog parlay. I mean, he is the champion. He has showed to be very good. He showed to get some takedowns in his last fight as well, so it is possible, man. I mean, Jan Blachowicz was able to take Adesanya down back then and was able to squeak out a decision that way, but I don't know, man. We'll see what happens. I think if Dricus can't get him down, though, he's probably going to end up getting knocked out, but I just expect Adesanya to come out this time and not fight like, the way he was, in a lot of those decision wins that he was getting, where he's just firing off the leg kicks and just landing, throwing the jab and just kind of staying out of the way of all the shots and just picking away and just kind of edging out a decision. I think he's probably going to come out here and more like the Pereira fight, the last Pereira fight, and look for a knockout. So, and he would be smart to do that. So, yeah, I'll take Adesanya to win. I'll take him to win by. A lot of his wins have been by decision, man. But I think if he wins this, he's going to have to finish, Dricus du Plessis. So, take the win by knockout round 3. And that's it for my picks, guys. As far as my bets go, pull these up. Don't have a lot going on this card. I have a 2-fight parlay that is Jack Jenkins and Keon Song. It's minus 125. That's a 1-unit play. I went ahead and added, people, I don't know, sometimes I don't understand what people are saying when they comment on the videos and they ask about, the units or whatever. Sometimes I don't know if I'm interpreting it the right way. I don't know if they don't know what units are, how they work, or if they're just wondering how much the unit is or whatever, because it's different for everybody. That's kind of a way of showing people your confidence level in bets, without letting people know all your business and and how much money you're using. I don't care. I've said tons of times on my videos that a unit for me is $1,000, and it used to be 500 like last year when I was doing my stuff, but I bumped it up to 1,000, and then this year I've pretty much haven't had the balls to go over 1 unit, so I should probably drop it back down. But last year was a very profitable, good year for me on betting on fights, man, and I was winning a lot of money. I mean, there were weekends where I was landing $4,000 or $5,000. Um, and yeah, man, this year it's been cutting it close, man. I mean, I'm sure I'm still in the profit, region, but I just haven't been having those big, winning cards like I used to. I'm edging out cards and winning, maybe 1,000 here, 1,000 there, but I haven't been having those really killer cards like I was last year, this year as much. So hopefully this one will be one of those. But I got, like I said, 1 unit play on that. I got to play on Carlos Prates at minus 190. That's a 1 unit play. And I know I was just talking bad about myself betting on women's fights at the beginning of the video, but I do think that Luana Santos is a finisher. I got her at minus 150. It's a half-unit play. It's a $500 play. And so far, man, I don't have the only parlay that I have put in right now is actually a 2-fight parlay, which is the Tybura card and this card. I just kind of mix those two cards together on a parlay and put it in. I got Gregorio and Parsons, Rosa, Chandler, Nascimento on the Tybura card, and then I added Song, Prates, Jenkins, and Adesanya from this card, and I put 50 on that to win $2,374. And that's the only parlay I get in right now. I'll show you. I was looking at another one. I just haven't put it in yet. Pull this up. What I was thinking, because I'm really waiting for all the fights to be up on Bovada before I put in my parlays, but I was looking at this one earlier. So I put this one up. That's Jenkins, Song, Tuivasa, Culibao, Prates, Santos, and Tafa, and that's a plus 3,144. And I'm thinking about putting that one in, but I also would probably make it without Tafa on it as well, which is a plus 1,600 parlay. I think that's a pretty good parlay, a pretty solid one right there. Santos, Prates, Culibao, Tuivasa, Song, and Jack Jenkins. I'll probably definitely have this one in like that, and then I'll just add like Tafa to it, and I don't know. I know I picked Walker to win, but I kind of want to. I guess I was trying to put together I was putting together a parlay that was like my most confident picks on the card are Santos, Jenkins, Prates, Song, and that's it. And so I took those and I was just kind of adding in the valuable Australian fighters, to it. Don't think I'm going to be mixing in. I mean, I might have, like I said, might have a crazy underdog parlay or something with some of these guys in it with Dan Hooker and all that, but I don't know. We'll see what happens. I'll post some stuff, closer to the fights, but I think for now this is a pretty solid parlay to put in. Once again, Santos, Prates, Culibao, Tuivasa, Song, and Jenkins. That's a plus 1,600 parlay. But yeah, other than that, man, ain't got much in right now. I'll try to post stuff, my social medias, closer towards the fights, man. But I want to get this video out. Y'all know I've been going out of town for work, man, so I haven't had as much time to do things, and I've been trying to have to get my stuff out really before I'm ready to have them out. I mean, I would like a little bit more time, but once I'm gone, and then I won't be back until next or this Sunday or whatever. And I like, and the whole one of the best parts of my channel is to get stuff out early for you guys, and I know you guys like that. So but either way, man, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for caring what I have to say. Sorry I'm not a little bit more excited about this card. Trying to keep it simple as well. Tired of putting in a shitload of parlays and for no reason, I mean, I make all my money off these single plays and 2-fight parlays, so the day of the fights I will smash in some like $20 parlays, underdog, stuff like that. But either way, man, thank you guys so much for caring what I have to say. Thank you for being here. Please like and subscribe. Check out Bovada, man. It doesn't hurt to take a look at it, and I'll talk to you guys later, man. Hope you win some money. I'm out of here.